So actually, I did find what I was thinking of, and it was basically Alex O'Connor, who used to be a host on the AXP, and of course Ben Shapiro, who's very famous for talking about how his wife can't get wet. So
Yeah.
And just talking fast so that people think he's smart.
yeah, and the thing is, like I was listening to this, and I was just kind of caught at how bad Ben Shapiro is in logic, but I think it's kind of you're sort of forced to be bad logically if you're defending the Christian position.
Oh,
So
inevitably.
That's a given.
yeah, so let me play. I liked Alex's argument at the beginning. I haven't watched this whole thing, but I'll just go over his opening argument and then Ben Shapiro's response. And I have this at 1.5 speed. If Ben is talking too fast to understand, I'll put it back to regular speed. But here it goes.
But I think still has some truth to it in a sense. It's more of a philosophy of language than it is a philosophy of what good and bad actually is. What I do know, however, is that there are problems, I think, with trying to ground morality in the existence of a God, especially if it's done so on the grounds that it essentially can't be done anywhere else. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the religions of the world are false. I think that they are incorrect. That is, I don't think there really is a supernatural authority. And what that means is that the inventions of religious morality are just those, inventions, and inventions of a human mind. Now, if you have a human morality that recognizes that it is essentially a series of compromises between the history of mankind trying to get along with each other on a planet, then what happens is sometimes these ideas and these philosophies rub up against the real world, and we can adapt them as necessary. Now, there is a deep problem with this, and that is, if I meet a man who wants to kill me, or a friend, and he says that he doesn't believe in God, there's very little I can do to talk him out of that, except I can threaten him with legal sanction, I can threaten him with moral reproach, exclusion from the moral community, but there's not much more I can do. However...
So, I mean, he kind of... I don't like the way he phrased it. He kind of make it seem like, there isn't much you can do, except, but there are things, and he's saying that you can kind of appeal to reason, talk about the consequences of how illegal it is, etc. So he gives an explanation that with an atheist, you could try to reason with him. And so now he's going to talk about the Christian, what you can do when a theist murderer comes at you.
If a person says that he wants to kill me, and he believes that he wants to kill me because God has told him to do so, then I don't even have that minimal reproach available to me, because there is no law written by any man of any time that could ever count one iota against the dictates of the creator of the universe. Therefore, if that God in fact does not exist, and if these moralities are in fact human inventions, then what you have in the grounding of an ethical system in the dictates, allegedly, of the creator of the universe is all of the arbitrariness and subjectivity and failure and faults of nihilism and human invented morality, with all of the certainty and all of the faith and all of the unanswerability of the creator of the universe. That to me seems a dangerous cocktail that we drink at our peril.
So many things.
And this is, something that I've argued for a while, that, a theist or, specifically a Christian, they are justifying their own personal beliefs and saying that it's inerrant and it's objective. And there's really no way to, dispute that, the authority that he thinks he has, because the only way to do it is to disprove God, to show that his God belief is wrong. So I like that argument. And now we can, anyone have any comments? Sorry, I might be going kind of fast. Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to add that that's a particularly nice way of looking at it from Alex, but I find he's very good as long as he's not talking about veganism. Things then go off the rails, and he joins the other side of illogicality. But the thing, it's absolutely true, because you get the variation between people who invite gay people into their church. You've got that group of people saying love everybody, and then you've got at the other end of the scale, you've got the likes of the Westboro Baptist Church, and all of them claim that basically they are following God's plan, and their morality is as it should be, and they are incompatible. Yeah, so yeah, it's an interesting problem there, that you have this certainty and you just pick whatever you think and then you've got the certainty that God is backing up what you think.
Yeah. So now we have this argument, a pretty clear argument, right? And let's hear what Ben's response to that is.
Is there, and so much that you're saying is quite brilliant. I actually thought you were going in a different direction with that last example, which I'll explain in a second. So, yeah, to start with the very beginning, obviously, the idea of right and wrong. So there are many problems with the motivism. Alistair McIntyre does a good job sort of breaking down the problems of the motivism. But the sort of idea that
Yeah, he speaks so fast that it,
Yeah. No, that's what I was afraid of.
Can you
has to be certain. There have to be certain moral absolutes that are beyond contention, and those moral absolutes have to be universally accepted. You can ground that, I suppose, in a sort of descriptive universe. The problem is that, to go back to your example, which again I think is a really interesting one, if a man comes to kill me, I think the real question of religion versus non-religion in the utility sphere here is it more likely that a man is going to come to kill you being a devotee of a religion that says that he must kill you? Or is it more likely that a man is going to kill you out of self-interest because he is not a devotee?
Yeah, so he shifts the argument, right, to say that, well, with religion, you'll be less likely for there to be someone who absolutely believes that, it's okay for them to kill you, than with atheism, where, he's trying to say that, well, atheists don't have real morality, no fixed morality, so they're more likely to come at you based on their personal beliefs. So keep this in mind, because that's what he's going to say about the atheism, that it's going to be, that they are motivated by personal beliefs, whereas the Christian or the religious person is motivated by pure morality, right?
Timothy McVeigh. I'd like to also add in the Crusades.
Yeah. So it's going to come up, but listen to his argument, and then we can kind of break it down.
Of a God who says that killing is wrong. So if you are faced with these two alternatives,
so that takes you off on a wrong place right away, right? To say that people aren't going to kill you because God said it's wrong to kill, and we know that that's not the case, right?
Yeah, he's full of bull there.
Yeah.
alternatives, to kind of remove your example one step. The question is why the man has come to kill you. I mean, that's your premise is the man has come to kill you because God told him to, and so he can't be dissuaded by force. Agreed. We see that full scale in the real world on a fairly regular basis. It is also true that over the course of human history, men have come to kill one another on the basis of self-interest in extraordinary amounts of the time. Tribal self-interest particularly, having no particular relationship with God, just the idea that I want to kill you over territory, I want to kill you over resources, I want to kill you because you're not a member of my immediate kin family, or because you killed a member of my kin family, and so in revenge I need to kill a member of your kin family. The entire, to borrow from your language, the entire sort of evolution of religion on a utility basis would have been to create moral absolutes that are applicable more broadly to than to you and your friends. Any more.
Yeah, and so the issue here is that people can absolutely, religious people can absolutely have their own self-interest that they're trying to promote. Let's say that they wanted to get land, let's say a 25-mile strip of land. And you could justify that as saying that, well, God ordained us to get that land. And it's definitely not because we're greedy. It's not definitely for, wanting to, turn it into a Riviera. It's not because of that, but it's because we are right, because God gave us an absolute moral authority, right? So that's the thing that Ben just, doesn't quite seem to get, and maybe he does, but, he's just assuming that, a religious person has this absolute morality, and that their actions are not, just using their God belief as a justification for their own self-interest. Right?
The irony of
That's
that
in the
is,
book.
yeah, the irony of that is in even in the Old Testament or / the Jewish Bible. That's exactly what is going on in Numbers 31 with the genocide of the Midianites, and in Deuteronomy with the laws of Moses telling you to go and take their land and if they bother to say no, God has ordered that you slaughter them down and to the last person, and including the livestock. And that's exactly what's in that Bible.
Yeah,
The
Shapiro
irony.
has a tendency to speak in absolutes when it serves his purpose, but then speak in generalities when it suits his purpose. His logic is sort of has the shifting goalpost baked in. QC, you pointed it out. As soon as he started talking, his first attempt was to try and shift the vocabulary of the conversation. But when you hold him down, when you actually make him articulate specific points and answer specific points, he gets real frustrated real fast. There's a wonderful example of this. He's talking to a British news anchor. I'm trying to remember the details now. I'll have to look it up. But he basically, the British news anchor is a well-known conservative news figure, and he accuses the guy of being a liberal because he was holding Shapiro's feet to the fire. If I can find it, I'll leave it.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. He did sort of.
Piers Morgan?
No, it wasn't.
I don't think so. Yeah,
because I'm thinking, wow, that would have been a thing if it was Piers Morgan. He was accused of being.
It was.
Oh, was it?
Serious?
Okay, I don't remember, but it was like him kind of going off because he was kind of getting pushed into a corner. But let's just. Sorry?
I'll see if I can find it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So let's finish. So I don't think there's much left, at least in this part of the discussion.
Morality that can be created on an individual level is inherently dangerous because you can immediately graft that morality onto your personal self-interest. The entire purpose of religion, whether you want to ground that in evolutionary brain functionings or whether you want to ground that in revelation, the entire purpose of religion on a utility level is to remove morality from the purview of my special interest and to say, here are things that I cannot do, even if they are in my interest, because there is a higher power that says I cannot do these things. I think that a society that does not have these moral absolutes is in deep trouble. A society that refuses to say that there are certain absolutes that cannot be crossed under any circumstances that are universally applicable, it reduces things that we all take for granted, like equal justice before the law, like the idea that the law is supposed to equally apply to everybody, whether they're a member of your family or whether they're not. And there are broad cultural differences in these questions. I mean, to pretend that all human societies have equality under law is obviously not true. It's not even remotely true, actually. There's a very good book called The Weirdest People in the World, all about the idea that we in the West have this sort of ethnocentric view of ourselves where we think everybody thinks like people in the West. But the truth is that because we are Western educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic, we have particular views of the world. Those views are drawn from a particularistic tradition. That particularistic tradition is biblical in nature. I mean, it is Judeo-Christian in nature, even if you're just describing European society or American society historically speaking. So the kind of removal of God from the equation, your suggestion is that God makes a person impervious to countervailing responses. And my answer is yes, God does make a person impervious to countervailing responses, including the evils of one's own heart, if you truly believe that God is standing above you, telling you not to do that thing. And again, social science tends to bear this out. People who believe that God is above them tend to give more charity, for example. People who tend to live inside religious communities, within the religious community. And I'm not going to pretend that I think all religions are equivalent in their truth proposition.
Yeah. So so I just kind of end it there. You're definitely. I mean, it's kind of. It's not that long, and it's worthwhile watching. But he kind of like presupposes that there is this one set of morality that they get from God, the Judeo-Christian God, and that all of our laws come from, etc. And that everyone is going, at least all the Christians, are going to strictly adhere to it. So, when there was gay marriage, for example, that there are a lot of Christians that didn't strictly adhere to it because the Christians or theists in general don't have an actual concrete single example of a God that they are all believing in. It's all part of their individual beliefs that they are just pretending is that, their belief comes from this absolute divine entity.
Yeah, the problem the problem that always exists is, let's grant for a moment that a God exists and the God is the source of a perfect morality. That's all well and good, but they don't have access to that morality. So they've just got opinions about it.
Yep.
So so the ontology is actually an irrelevant part of it, because we don't have access to that.
Yep.
Yeah, Shapiro is very fond of saying, let's say, let's just say.
That's actually pretty good.
That is my Ben Shapiro impersonation. In order to win his argument, he has to presuppose the core of his arguments.
Yeah.
And so just one of the most efficient ways I've ever seen people debate back at him is just going at that core argument and saying, no, you don't have that presupposed. We're not going to presuppose that. You have to establish that core. Otherwise, you don't have a leg to stand on. And he gets real frustrated real fast. That's why when he's talking to folks like Alex O'Connell, he's much more calm and reasoned and with his speech pattern. But he goes on the attack when he's trying to talk to a bunch of college kids. When he's in the safety of his own studio, and he can, when his call screeners can pick and choose who comes on, he looks a lot more intelligent when he gets to stack the deck in his favor. I have very little patience for the man.
Yeah. So initially I was going to kind of make a video about this, and there's a couple other videos I was going to make. I just haven't had time. So since Andrew Wilson, who demanded to be on my channel, decided not to show up, for anyone who kind of missed it at the beginning, we've had to kind of change the topic, and I thought this would be kind of an interesting one to look at, just because I think it kind of epitomizes a lot of Christians who think that they have like a rational argument. And with Ben Shapiro, he can kind of, make what he says sound, like he, it's a good argument. But, ultimately it still is kind of a fallacious argument that, he's not going to concede. But